Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the FBC broadcast podcast, shall I say, post Portsmouth. What a strange game it was yesterday. It was almost two games in one. Today, I'm joined by Mr. P, who I promise I'm going to call David today and try and avoid the Mr. P festival, by Tom, Mr. Robin's Nest, and my fellow Tory, who's rather related to me, Mark, who this is probably the last day of November, so we get the actual Mark back from next week, unless he thinks he's rocking the vibe. So, David, tell me, did we get lucky in the end yesterday to take 3 points?
No, we weren't. We weren't lucky at all, Dave. I think, the first half it was some of the best football we've seen from the side this season, epitomised by the goal. We were a bit flat in the second half. I don't know what it was. Some players seemed full of beans, some didn't, and by that I mean McCrory. We'll talk about him later in some depth, I'm sure. But no, we deserved the 3 points. Vitek did his usual. Good save, but is it routine? When I think Bishop had their only chance, they were poor. Pompey were poor, and on another day we might have had some more late in the second half when they were pushing. We didn't attempt to put them under any pressure. But at 1-0, you're always in danger of surrendering 2 points. But here we are. We've picked up 6 points from the last 3 games, so nobody's going to argue about that. So I'd have taken that. So we deserved it.
Tom, what was your overriding feeling at the end of the game? Because I think David summed it up very well there. Some of the football in the first half was scintillating. Yet Portsmouth had a couple of chances towards the end. So how are you feeling at full time?
It was a slightly painful watch, I'd say, in the second half while we were holding on. Probably down to the fact we'll get onto this. Didn't really make many substitutions during the game at all. But yeah, I thought we sort of benefited from the first 20 minutes. Really, the slight change in system. Portsmouth didn't know what to do with us, and we were absolutely electric. And I remember it took their keeper to go down faking a back injury for their first half water break for I think Musinho to get some ideas into their players and change the way they played. To be honest,
Mark, how about you? Positive after yesterday, towards the end of the game? Any causes for concern going forward?
There's no buzz, I don't think, around City that there was. Well, I don't know if there was last season, really, that we were going to surge into the playoffs, that we're going to set the division alight. It was 25 minutes of fantastic play against a very poor Portsmouth team. I do not understand how the hell they beat Millwall 3-1 the other week, because they were frankly awful, relying on long throws and punts forward to players. The highlights from me again were Anis Mehmeti. I don't know where this anti-Anis comes from. If Anis Mehmeti didn't play well in our games, we wouldn't. We had 3 assists last week, and then the goal yesterday. In general, all-round play was excellent. Lots of energy in the first half, but we seemed to use it up after the first half hour. And in the second half, we never really got on the ball. We didn't utilise getting behind their defence when we brought Sinclair Armstrong on. Lack of movement, and it was quite poor. The lack of substitutions, I don't understand. It's almost like you can't trust any of our youngsters playing central midfield. But apart from the collector's item of a Mehmeti header, was the elderly gentleman who didn't react too kindly to Anis celebrating in front of him, which if they just keep playing that, I mean, that just made me smile. It was absolutely hilarious. If anybody wants to make a comment about it, it's I don't think it was a victory, V. I think it was the other way around.
For anyone that hasn't seen the post-goal celebration, I urge you to, because the reaction of the slightly elderly gentleman is wonderful, and it's kind of what football is about, in certain moments. He wasn't having any of that, no respect given at all. And
it was a facial expression, not just the fingers, wasn't it?
It was fun. I really enjoyed seeing it. It wasn't like aggressive in like a violent way, but it made the point of this is what football is about. It's tribal, no credit given at any point. Bit of pretext of yesterday. Portsmouth generally been struggling, 7 games, not picking up too many points. However, their last 2 games at home, they did beat Millwall, and they also drew with Wrexham. So they weren't going to be any pushovers. To the team itself, you dropped out for Twine. I think maybe you can be considered slightly unlucky there. Borges came in for Roberts. and Reece was the starter of the two possible strikers. David, I'll throw it to you first. How do you feel about Reece starting at the moment? Do you think there's any credence for maybe Armstrong deserving to be the main man up front at this moment in time?
I think there is a case. I mean, to me, Reece still appears a little bit leaden-footed. I think he put in one decent shot yesterday that I recall. There's the famous goal that wasn't given. Was he pulled back? Was he just clumsy? He's our highest paid player, arguably. So we're led to believe. So you're going to start him. And he was okay yesterday. And Armstrong, when he came on, a couple of people commented on OTID that he didn't look the sharpest. I mean, if they've recalled somebody like Luke Skinner from, if they've recalled Luke Skinner from Western or wherever it was, let's have him on the bench instead of Fally Mayulu or something like that. And I think you're not going to start somebody like that, but Fally Mayulu right now really seems to be taking a space on the bench that could go to another youngster. But pick up on what you said and what people are saying, lack of substitutes. Gerhard doesn't seem to want to put trust in youngsters. And as we'll talk about later, we got 5 games coming up in 24 days. So he can't flog this current lot of players too much. Otherwise, they'll all be falling by the wayside. But no Knight yesterday, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that and the reasons.
Exactly. We'll come to that in a moment. But first of all, Tom, back 3 yesterday, Tanner, Dickey and Viner. How do you feel about that back 3 as a working back 3 at the moment?
I think it's probably the best we've got, isn't it? I don't necessarily love seeing Viner as the left of the 3, but it doesn't look like Pring is fit enough, and I think it would be very unfair to leave Tanner out of the team. So I think it's probably the best that we've got, and it was a breath of fresh air to see Viner back in defence. I think his passing from the back completely makes us, to be honest. And I look back at, there have been times, I think, where Bristol City have been good, and there have been times where we've been like absolutely electric this season. And those first 20 minutes were of that electric level, and I think it directly correlated with Viner being back in defence, to be honest, to play the passes that he does.
Okay, and Mark, I was listening to Radio Bristol pre-game, and during one of the interviews, it was Mark Sykes is going to be a centre midfielder. When that news still filtered through to you, or when you picked it up as the game started, how did you feel about Sykes being a centre midfielder yesterday?
Well, he must have pulled his name out of the hat, but to be quite honest, I'm joking. I thought he was excellent for most of the game. Fitted in really well, took control, featured in the goal with his pass to Neto Borges. So I think he was really competent. I think Sykes can play at wing back. I think he can play at number 10, as he demonstrated at Sheffield United. You know, he can move off the wing and get into positions. He's an intelligent player. So I didn't have. It's just going to be whether, you know, is he going to be a holding midfield player? Is he going to get caught out? You know, or is he going to get caught out positionally? He didn't do any of those things. He was solid. I thought he had a good game. I think Mark Sykes. Yeah.
Well, Sykes is another one, Mark, who's out of contract, isn't he? So that versatility,
Sykes, Mehmeti, they could all be walking in the summer, couldn't they?
Sykes is so adaptable in so many different positions that he's one of those guys that he brings that bit of quality. He has moments of magic. Sometimes he can go missing at times. However, it's one of those where you feel confident no matter where he plays within the side. So I think he's one of those contracts that you do want to tie down. Now, back to yesterday's game. Jason Knight, we're being told that he's being managed and rested. Do you instinctively believe that from the club? Do you believe what you're being told, that is, we're just holding him out, it's okay, he's going to be coming back into the next game? Or do you think there's something a bit more worrisome at play here? Tom, you first.
I'm probably a fence sitter, to be fair. I'm going to trust that they have learned from their issues with injuries earlier on this season and are just not taking any risks with it. I also think a recovery from an injury is never completely linear. You can have setbacks and it can be a bit of a up and down process. And I'm trusting that is what's happening with Knight. And I think you look at the fixtures we've got coming up, I think Portsmouth is, and I don't mean to call them an easy game, but compared to the other games we've got coming up, is an easy fixture where you could probably get away with not using him. And then the run of games we've got coming up, I think he's going to be absolutely crucial for us, isn't he?
Do you agree with that, David? Nothing to worry about here. It's
I don't know. I mean, you know what we're told and what have you. It's like, is there a £22 billion black hole in the economy? Maybe not, but I was worried. I mean, if he's that much trying to bring him in gently, why did we start him? Did he start against Wrexham in midweek? I think he did, didn't he?
Yeah. No, he came on. He came
on. Okay. You could have put him on the bench. You could have given him 15 minutes at the end without pushing it. So if there was a midweek game coming up, I'd have said, I get it. But there's no midweek game coming up. So he's going to have a full week to recover as the rest of the players are. Yeah.
My suspicion with it is that it's not like we have players on the bench that come on all the time. We have a few players that sit on the bench regularly and don't get any game time. So I just have a feeling that there's something there that we're not quite fully being honest about, and they're kind of giving themselves space to hope it passes over by the next week or so, and just giving them a bit of time to analyze it. But with the track record, we know what happens sometimes. It starts with a just resting, and then it's a setback, and then it's, we didn't expect that. So I'm fearing the worst, but also hoping that trying to give them the benefit of the doubt at the same time, if that makes any sense. Now, into the game. We started pretty lively. First of all, here, starting with Mark or any of you, do any of you think that the Twine incident was a penalty? Is there anyone here that thinks it was?
There was some contact, but I think it might have been after he went down. So Twine starts to go down. I mean, it's a good exchange of passes with Mehmeti. He follows up his own shot, which is blocked. But I think the trouble with Twine is he's earned himself a little bit of a reputation with referees in the Championship. And unless it's clear cut, in other words, 2 pinfalls and 1 submission, I don't think he's going to get many decisions, because referees are just saying they're going to look. You're looking for a decision. So I think he was going down. You just don't get those in the Championship. When was the last time we haven't had a penalty in the Championship since February 2023 away from home? And that was that famous one we got at Sunderland in the last minute from Naki Wells, when I think Jay Da Silva got knocked over. It was so long ago. Jay Da Silva was still playing for us. So you're never going to get those minor, tiny bit of contact. But it was as he was falling, and he's got Scott Twine on his back. And referees say no.
See, myself, I didn't necessarily see a level of contact there. And Tom, my question for you is, do you think that Twine was expecting contact and going down looking for it, or is he genuinely off balance? Because what happens next, he knows he hasn't been touched, which is why he shoots and doesn't protest. But leading into it, do you think it was something he was looking for, or just genuinely off balance?
I think watching him play every week, right? He is a player who I think his first instinct when it's close to being a foul is to go down, isn't it? He doesn't want to stay on his feet and try and make something of it from like open play. His instinct is to go down. That's how I feel Scott Twine plays, to be honest.
Just one of those, right? Now, David, just moving it on slightly. First 20 minutes, up and towards the goal, first 15 minutes of the game, what was it that was different from Wrexham about the setup, about the side? What was so positive in that part of the opening?
Energy. Yeah, we were on our toes, and that counts for a lot, because you watch a lot of games. Admittedly highlights, and players seem on it, sharp. Yeah, and sometimes it's been a feature of our play for years. Just to me, maybe that's what happens when you watch one club week in, week out. You exploit the weaknesses, but we played with energy yesterday. It wasn't like watching a typical Bristol City performance. As Tom said earlier, we've seen glimpses of this fast front foot attacking football, but we really meant it, and everybody looks solid. The one person in the first half who didn't have that energy, I'm sorry to keep banging on about him, but it was Ross McCrory. I mean, but he just doesn't look fit. And I'm not talking about he just looks as though he's drained. And but getting back to what you said, the difference, we were sharp. Mehmeti, they were singing his praises on the commentary team on Sky yesterday, but there was a couple of, one point that they made, and I've just put it down here, they said 1 touch too many. That was 5 minutes before the goal when he went on a run, and I think there was somebody that he could have released the ball to, and he didn't. And Anis, if you're watching this or listening, which you never will, but That's the sort of thing why you won't end up playing Premier League football, and you're better off signing a deal with us, because he's gone from that infuriating, inconsistent player to somebody that, again, if he walks out the door for nothing, it's going to be a travesty, poor reflection on the way the club is run. And, you know, if he has got no intention of signing, somebody might come in with a cheeky bid of $1.5 million. And you could stick another naught on the end of that based on his contributions so far. I think, what is it, 6 goals and 5 assists. Add that to last season, you know, and he's a winger. He's not an out-and-out striker. So we were sharp. That's all I got to say.
Sharpness about it. And Mark, how much comes down to Viner and his ability to pass through the lines and be very proactive in the way that he tries to build foundations and play through teams? What is it? Is it just a simple case of yesterday he drops back and all of a sudden we've got a player that's playing through the lines, or is it more complex than that?
I think we decide when the centre backs want to come and when they want to go. I mean, we've seen it with Rob Dickey. We've seen it with Rob Atkinson very occasionally, and we see it with Viner becoming an auxiliary midfielder and, you know, stepping into those areas to keep the ball moving forward. That was the difference in the first 25 minutes. The ball kept rolling and it kept going forward, rather than the tippy tappy Liam Manning style, you know, circle the wagons type football. And that was why we were so impressed with that energy, and that's what Viner can do. Provides an extra body in midfield when we got the ball, and for some reason, Portsmouth in the first half gave us acres of space. There was so much room in the middle of the field for Sykes and the centre backs to exploit. They just weren't pressing high up the pitch until the second half. So enabled us to have a number of attacks. But because the ball kept going forward, that's why we looked so good. It sets on the right hand side, where, as David was saying, McCrory was tucked back, coping with Josh Murphy. But no, I think Viner makes our defence look so more solid. There is a toss-up really of whether you have George Tanner or Rob Atkinson there to make it even sturdier. Then of course you could say, well, could Cam Pring play on the left side? But I think at the moment Viner, Atkinson, and Dickey would be my best back three if once Atkinson's back. Don't know how long it's going to be, but it should be fairly soon, we think.
Now, before we get to the goal, that first 20 minutes, first 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes even, it wasn't just chaos theory. It wasn't like we were stealing the ball and breaking and building from there. It was fast zip, speedy football. It was played at pace. It was precision. Tom, do you agree with Mark's wording there, like that Preston weren't pressing, weren't tight enough? Or do you think that our football was so good that we didn't allow them? Because in my opinion, that 25 minutes is some of the best football that we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, it was electric. I think there's also an element that they were almost like bamboozled by our lineup, to be honest. I don't think they expected Sykes to play in midfield, and I think that may have confused them as well. And I'll just go back to, I think it took the drinks break or the enforced break that they had to sort things out. And Mousinho got into them and I think told them our structure and enabled them to prepare a bit better. But I think honestly, the lineup sort of shocked them and confused them as much as they were poor. I think it was down to our team selection that probably enabled that, to be honest.
Sure. Now, just to build up towards the goal, on the 10th minute, Sykes nicked in, stole the ball. It goes to Anis. David was speaking about it before. He's got a few options. He fails to shoot. A few minutes later, we have a delicious ball from Sykes over the top to Anis, who's offside. A few minutes later, Anis gets the ball. He makes the wrong option with the pass. He had an easier pass on, it breaks down. At this particular moment, I personally felt like the goal is coming. I understand others are getting a bit frustrated with Anis, thinking, please make better decisions. I disagree with it. I think it's what you take with him, but that's for later. David, Tanner intercepts, gets the ball. Talk me through the goal as you saw it.
Okay, as you say, he intercepts, gets it, goes to Randall, goes to Sykes. Borges is racing away down the left, and he puts in another cross like he did a few home games ago. I mean, it's difficult. Keeper doesn't come, and Anis is there. One of the shortest players on the field, there with a bullet header into the top of the net. It's not the sort of goal we score, but it's the sort of goal that comes through playing that fast, aggressive football, not dilly-dallying, not checking back. And I have to say, yesterday, I thought Tanner had a great game, and he did go forward a bit more than what he normally does. He didn't look to be looking back all the time. So it was a great goal. It wasn't one of the top 5 goals in the EFL yesterday, probably because it didn't finish with a rocket shot, but for sheer pace from one end of the pitch to the other, if we were doing that, one of our goals was coming like that in every 3 games on top of the direct. Well, we don't score from free kicks much, but yeah, that was a good goal that you'd be proud of scoring that, because the number of touches we had with the opposition not getting anywhere near it. And again, Borges, that looks a decent loan signing to me, and he's added value to the team. So no, it was good goal.
Tom, do you think that Borges is better defending or better going forward? Where would you rate his strengths? Because that's not the first cross that he's put in like that. He's done a couple of them now, and he's had others where they've been pretty good. So where do you feel more confident with Borges, going forward or defending?
I honestly think his strengths lie in both, don't he? I don't necessarily think he's like the best attacking fullback or wingback I've ever seen, but he just has the belief in himself to do that. I think, well, thinking back to what we had last season as our fullbacks, like the likes of Pring and Tanner, maybe it was related to Manning sort of holding them back, but I think confidence in fullbacks to go forwards in previous seasons is something we've struggled with. And he's one that he might not necessarily be the best every time, but he just has the belief and confidence to do it, doesn't he? Which is quite refreshing to see at times.
No, I agree with you. And Mark, in terms of Anis, there with the header again, what does it say about Anis right now? If we use the FBC famous word of extrapolation, he's currently on for 15 goals and 15 assists for this season. And it's not like a small sample size either. We're a good, decent amount of the way through the season. How would you reflect on that? Imagine we told you another player from another club was on for those kind of stats.
Well, he's increasing his value when we sell him in January. Just a joke, because we won't. We'll let his contract run down, and he'll walk for free. The one thing that he did was he ran between his movement between the defenders was terrific. He took it like a number 9, not like a number 10. Who can also play out wide in a free. I thought he took it really well. I can't remember the last time he scored from a header, or if he's ever scored from a header for City. I think he missed an easier chance last season against Preston when we got the game back to 2-2 after McCrory equalised. So he just took it. He took it really well, and he's full of confidence. And he's by far our best asset this season. No problem at all, Anis Mehmeti. And I think if he was, if he had it, I think he's not going to sign a new contract, because I think there's going to be one on offer, unless City are prepared to increase his wages with agents, talking in his ear and then getting a big cut. I think we'll just have to enjoy his minutes on the pitch between now and the end of the season, because he's walking, but he's by far our best player at the moment, and enjoy him while he's here.
If we analyse
sorry to interrupt, can I just ask a question there, Mark? With Anis, right? Some have said that he'll sign if we get promoted. If we get promoted, he's going to be a key contender in that. And then you just wonder whether, we could do better than him. But I guess if he carries on this way and we do get promoted and he signs, and he's taken us there. Sorry, Dave.
No, David, you just said something absolutely perfect to my next point. Last season, he scored 12 goals. This season, thus far, he has 6 goals and 6 assists. There are players in Bristol City history that have cult status for doing less. And you've just said if he takes us there, we can probably get better. Why doesn't he get praise that he deserves? And that's for all of you. Why not? Robin's asking first.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know in the main, to be honest. I think maybe fans have in some way struggled to build a connection with him, I guess. I don't know. It's just my opinion. I've tweeted this multiple times now. This is our talisman in attack now. This is our guy. And as fans, we need to, even if we only have him for one more season, we need to treat him that way and appreciate him that way. And I think, there's as much money as Bristol City can throw at him. I think the feeling he will get from fans will dictate, will help his decision making, I think, wherever he decides to go in the summer. And you could tell he did a post-game interview where he was really fond of the away fans yesterday and was really saying how they helped the team get over the line and stuff. So I think as fans, we've got a part to play. I'm moving away from your question a little bit, but we've got a part to play in him staying at the football club, I think.
And this is it, because David mentioned it. Roger Tully here, perfectly reasonable comment that he's not Premiership quality that people could identify with. But Mark, what more does he have to do? I mean, 6 goals, 6 assists. At this point in the season, you would have taken that at the start and been, that's fantastic. What more does the guy have to do?
I think there are moments when he takes too many touches. I mean, he's improved his all-round game. From the guy who used to get knocked off the ball, who couldn't play out of his way out of a paper bag, when he first signed. We're looking at a player who wasn't trusted by Liam Manning in the second half of that last season, wasn't used in the playoffs at all. There must have been some disconnect there, because Struber seems to have filled him with confidence, but it's the amount of touches he takes. He's got the ability to get the ball out of his feet and shoot earlier sometimes. It takes too many touches when he's in position to release players. He doesn't get his head up. So those are the qualities you need to play at a higher level. He takes a few seconds more on the ball than he needs to, and that's what scouts will be looking at. So I think higher end championship team. But what does that mean? I mean, we're in 6th place.
Exactly.
We're talking about teams who have had parachute payments. So you could go to an Ipswich or a Birmingham City, a Project who have got a bit of money, but who might finish below us in the league, or Wrexham who've got lots of money to spend, who play in a ground where they regularly get crowds of 10,000, or another Project. He isn't going to go to a Premier League team. They're not going to take a risk, and everything's a risk these days on a player, unless he can improve those qualities. What is he now, 23, 24?
24.
24. So I think he's got himself, and another couple of seasons. But to improve his game significantly. But unless he improves in those few seconds where his decision making is poor, he's not going to play at a higher level. But he's the best player that we've got, and there should be more love for Anis Messi.
Just one more thing on him for you, David. A question: if he was playing for another team, I don't know, we'll just say Preston, and we signed him in January, and we got him based on his current just numbers alone, would we consider that a coup? Would we be raving right now? Look who we've managed to sign. What a statement of intent that is.
Yeah, I guess you would, because if he was coming from a lower club in the division to us, looking at his statistics over the last season, and last season, as Mark rightly pointed out, he was ignored for big parts of the second half of the season. So he's got more assists this season, but by the halfway stage, he'd scored most of that. I think he was probably into double figures before we got to the end of the calendar year. So, and look, his game has improved, because people used to say to him, I'll say in the first 12 months he was here, you don't get time for that extra touch in the Championship compared to League One. He's upgraded that now. He is a good Championship player, and what's he worth if he wasn't out of contract? You'd probably be not mega bucks, but you'd probably be talking in the 4 to 5 million transfer fee level. Now, is that you've got to bear in mind, is he better than Tommy Conway was when Tommy Conway left us? I mean, Tommy's game seems to have gone to rat shit right now, but if we sign somebody with those statistics, then yeah. It's hypothetical, but you look and you say, we got a good player. He can make the difference between us going up and not, if we didn't have him already. Whereas, we've got him, and it's whether somebody comes in who has got a bit of money, and says, well, we'll take it now. We want him to get us over the line in the summer.
Sure.
And we get offered, if we were offered £2 million for Anis Messi in January, and he's giving no indication of signing the contract, we'll take it. Right. Okay. And I think the club will just be prepared to take it on the chin, the criticism they'll get. That's why the next 31 days, when you look at the matches, I've said the next 5 matches will shape the season, because I think after the West Brom game on Boxing Day, it's Millwall away before we get the 2 home games. So we've got Millwall twice in the space of 23 days. Exactly. This will shape our season. We're 7 points better off after match day 17 than we were last year. So all the goodness that we had last year, getting it with that 7 points extra we've got now, if we replicate last season's form in the second half of the season, that's 75 points in the playoffs, no question. And if we could take that now, we'd be happy. But Coventry look like they're going to run away with it. And then I think the rest of it, when you look how many points are separating about 15 clubs, that second place is very much up for grabs at the moment.
When people say the champion,
that's
we'll come to it later. But when people say the Championship is the best league in the world, it's what they mean. It's not by luck. Now, 25 minutes in, I think it was around about the maybe 27th minute to be exact. Keeper goes down. They make changes. They're very intelligent play, to be honest with you. Understanding they're under the cosh, giving themselves an opportunity to reset. Mark, talk me through what you saw. If you noticed any tactical tweaks, what was different about Portsmouth after that keeper injury that they were able to seem more competitive?
Well, I just think they closed us down better, and there was then you saw Josh Murphy come into the game a lot more. They were getting the ball to Murphy, and he was skinning McCrory on down our right flank and getting crosses in regularly. I think they probably forced their first corner then. Of only 2 in the whole game, which was quite strange. But Pep Guardiola's famous for doing it as well. I think Donnarumma did it yesterday, went down. It's an easy way to enforce a change and get your players on the side of the pitch to have a little chat and say, what WTF, I needed to sort this mess out straight away. So I think Portsmouth played further up the pitch, didn't give us the room to play, and then for the last 10 minutes of the first half, we were under the cosh.
It was certainly a challenging 10 minutes. I felt we were still in the game. We were looking to attack. It was highly competitive. And just before halftime, Portsmouth gave us a warning. They had a free header in the box where they probably should have done better. But Tom, how were you feeling at halftime? Were you feeling pleased with that first half, or slightly rueful that we hadn't put the game to bed, or at least given ourselves daylight with an extra goal?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. I was feeling pretty good that we were 1-0 up and obviously had played so well for a good half of that half, I guess. But at the same time, I hate a 1-0 lead as well, because anything can happen for them to score a goal, right? All they need is a cheeky flick or just something knobbly from a free kick to get back into the game. So, yeah, I was wishing for that extra goal. And honestly, I think, after that sort of mid-half team talk, I think Portsmouth just ended up playing how Mousinho wanted them to play from the start of the game. Like the thought of playing the ball to Murphy to target McCrory. I think if you're analysing Bristol City, where can you hurt us? I think going one-on-one with your best player against McCrory at the back is probably the way you do that, right?
So do you see him as the weak link slightly now, would you say, then, in the defensive setup at this moment?
I think he's always probably been a bit weaker at that sort of one-on-one defending, to be honest. I mean, even last season when he was scoring the goals and playing well, I think there were a number of times where he just got absolutely roasted by another winger, to be honest.
So his strength is more going forward than back, I guess. Okay. And David, how did you feel at halftime? I mean, we just spent a while singing the praises of Anis, but is there something said as a team collective and not being ruthless enough and putting that game or giving daylight?
There was another sort of penalty situation about 10 minutes after the goal when Reece, was he pulled? No. Mehmeti left foot shot 1 yard. We could have been 2-0 up. I'd have felt more comfortable. I was worried though, because as I say, they got back into the game after that gamesmanship team talk brought on by the goalkeeper going down. And again, I'm just picking up the comments of what the matchday commentators were saying. Murphy beating his man every time. I wrote that comment on the half hour. And I don't know what it is with Ross McCrory. I mean, if you look at what he cost us, I know he had an unfortunate injury for his first 6 months here, but he looks out of sorts. And I was singing his praises a few weeks ago, saying, he's better on the left than he is on the right, even though he's right-footed. That's where he got all the goals from. But you really do expect a little bit more from him. And I don't know whether it was the first half when he got booked or the second, but he was a bloody liability come the end, because he was being beaten so many times that, after that first yellow card, in an ideal world, you'd take him off because he's your last man on there. And I think in the second half, we changed it such that it was Tanner that picked up Murphy. And that was a tactical change there, really. Ross has been off for a bit, and I'm a bit worried about him. And when people say what the ideal back three is, and we forget all about McNally now, and it's Viner, Dickey, Atkinson when fit. George Tanner's still gets a shirt now based on he never lets us down, George. He has his critics, but he's 100% and he's available. And that's a big thing these days is availability. Some players do Saturday, Tuesday or Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday or Wednesday. Don't seem fazed by it. Yeah. But McCraw is struggling big time and his fitness. And I mean overall fitness to me, because he's a big unit. I don't think he's carrying a strain or anything like that. So that's my Pennyworth. I was pleased to be 1-0 up, hopeful for the second half, but you're always nervous with that scoreline.
So we go into the second half. It was a very lively opening. It was verging on end to end at times. Portsmouth had one that was cleared off the line by Viner, showing that there was going to be a threat coming. And in the 51st minute, we have an Anish chance. Keeper saves it low down from the edge, more or less the edge of the D, maybe slightly wider. If you guys remember that chance, how do you feel about that opportunity? Could he have done anything better there, or was it actually a striker or an attacking player doing his job? And sometimes that's what it comes to. What do you think, Mark?
I thought it was a great ball through by Twine. It's slightly behind Bermetti when he takes it. Could he advance further onto the goal? Possibly. But he's not Alan Shearer, who would hit the ball high over the keeper, or somebody who would dink it over the keeper. He probably he could take another touch and make the keeper commit himself before finishing. But he takes it early, and the goalkeeper makes a routine save with his feet, and it goes out. But I think he probably could have done a lot better, because he was at the centre of all our best moves. And it's a great ball from Twine, but it's slightly behind him when he takes it, which takes the pace out of it, and the keeper comfortably saves.
Now, a couple of minutes later, the second penalty shout, the one on Dickey. Tom, was there anything to see there? Because we've had them given against us in the past, and to me, it feels like we have to work so much harder for penalties. Like, what does it take? And I'm not saying that one necessarily was. I'm just saying that you do see them given sometimes.
Yeah, I remember watching, I can't remember what team it was. I think it was Coventry. They were playing Charlton, weren't they? And there was one shout that they had that was a stonewall, and they didn't get it either. I think the standard of foul that you need to get a penalty in the Championship is probably higher than other leagues. It might have been one that if there was VAR and they watched it in slow motion, saw the contact before the player, I don't even know if the player got the ball, but saw the contact in slow motion, they'd have given it. But I think at full speed, it was a pretty busy box as well, wasn't it? So whether the ref had a clear view of it, I don't really know, to be honest.
He was running away from the goal, wasn't he? He was actually facing up the pitch when he was he not from behind? I think there's a tiny little bit of contact again and again. You just don't get those in the Championship, which is why we haven't had that penalty. We haven't had a penalty away since February 2023. It's just the way it goes.
What do you think, David? Anything to see there with that incident?
Well, it's our luck with penalties just isn't there. I think, with VAR, I think maybe going back to the Twine one right at the start of the game, his reputation goes before him, even though the referee was a former City apprentice, Sam Allison, who I thought had a pretty decent game overall. I would say that on balance, if we had VAR, one of those two penalty incidents that we had yesterday, we'd have got one of those, and that would have made it a more clinical win.
Okay, so 61st minute, Armstrong comes on for Reece. The 1 hour, how do you feel about Reece's performance over that hour mark? Contributing enough, needs to be better, dropped off the pace? What do you see in Reece at the moment?
He just looks like he's carrying the world on his shoulders, or let him boot. He just doesn't seem as mobile as he did earlier in the season, and I suppose we saw in that Sheffield United game where he can make intelligent runs wide, hold on to the ball, link the attack. It just doesn't seem as mobile as he did, apart from the shot that he got out of his feet not so well in the first half, which was the shot that David alluded to with his left foot. He just doesn't seem to do a lot, but he scored five. I think he scored 5 goals this season. So I mean, his goal return is pretty good. I mean, if you think about it, but is he somebody that you think is going to carry us flying into playoffs right now? No. And then you got Sinclair Armstrong, who's only scored 1 goal. So yeah, I'd be a bit concerned. He looks like he's still got a bit of an injury concern. I don't know if it was a hammy or something else that he had, but yeah, not as mobile as he was. Yeah, I would feel a little bit worried about him.
What concerns me is at the start of the season, he was perhaps getting chances and not taking them, but he was doing a lot of work that was so effective for the team.
Yeah.
That seems to have gone missing slightly, and essentially he's now judged on if he scores or doesn't. Should we be worried, David? Is there cause for concern going forward, or does every striker go through phases like this in a season?
Yeah. I mean, Mark's given his view. Let me hear what Tom has to say, and then I'll give my comment on that.
I'm just left scratching my head as to whether it's a physical thing, like Mark said. He's obviously had an injury this season, or whether it's in his head. I don't know. I think across some Bristol City players this season, there's been a transformation in the mentality of some of these players, and whether Reece needs that as well. I do remember, though, when we signed him from Preston, in the replies to some of my tweets and stuff I was saying, Preston fans they weren't necessarily too upset to see Emil Reece leave. I remember, well, against us in obviously the final game of last season, him and the other striker were pretty electric against us. But I think even Preston fans were saying you get that sort of 2 out of 10 games from Reece, and then in other ones he sort of drops off. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried about him. And I haven't seen, I just remember that performance he put in against Sheffield United where he's running the channels, beating men, taking them on. He didn't have like electric pace, but he was still getting in behind and beating players. We just haven't seen that for a while from him, have we?
No. I mean, in answer to the question, Dave, you look at Kiefer Moore, right? And I mean, he's a big lad. Yeah. He's a threat from corners. He's got energy. He's got drive. Reece was showing all of that early start of the season, and he's going to get double figures for us this season. I mean, he finished well last week against Swansea. But if we are going to go into the transfer market in January, it's going to be for a striker, and we only play with one, so he's going to go down the pecking order with Armstrong even further down. And as an arguably, there's a case if we do go out and get a striker, be that a loan player maybe, when you haven't got to give a 4-year commitment, because Reece is here. I think he's got a 4-year contract. We've got Reece for a few years yet. But there's an argument that says, right, if we go out and sign a decent striker, Reece becomes our number 2 choice. You let Armstrong and Mayulu go out on loan. The former on loan, maybe the second one, we just let him go and cut our losses, right? And then you'd sooner see somebody, because he's a big lad, you'd sooner see Ollie Thomas coming in as that 3rd choice behind another, Reece, and then Ollie Thomas. Nobody would argue with that.
Armstrong
Reece is doing it. Reece is okay. He's okay. He's not going to fire us based on the last 3 months of him being here. He's not going to be firing us up to the top level. He's not going to suddenly come in with 10 goals. Watch me get egg on my face with this. Will he score 10 goals in the second half of the season? No, I don't think he will.
Dar makes an interesting point on Reece, saying he's a better player with pace and energy around him. Do you think there's credence to that? Do you think there's a truth in that when there's pace around him, he becomes a better player? Mark. I thought you froze. Mark, tell me.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise. Yeah, possibly. I think, in an ideal world, he should have been in the position that Mehmeti was in to head that ball in. That's where you'd expect your number 9 to be, between defenders, getting on the end of crosses. There weren't really that many crosses. He's a great header of the ball. The goal he got against Swansea showed that he's got good technique as well. To force the ball down into the net. He's also scored good goals from breakaways where he's outpaced defenders. So his all-round game is a little bit better, and he's showing it's just his mobility. But then we've also got to give him service. So there are times yesterday and there are times during games where Mehmeti takes too many touches. It could go to a Reece to find him in space, but it's also up to him to be able to find that space and drop off defenders and find space in the box to be found. That was something that Naki Wells could do for a player, who's a diminutive stature compared to Reece. But he's a good header of the ball. and he's got a better all-round game that he's showing, but I think he needs a little bit better service at times.
Sure. Now, for all Portsmouth's endeavour and intent in that second half, they were coming at us with long throws. They were coming at us from multiple angles, trying the traditional football technique, shall we say. They didn't really offer too much until right near the end of the game. I felt we weathered the storm very, very well. And that aspect of football is just important. But Tom, I have a question for you from our own perspective of that. Our long throws with Dicky throwing it into the box, is there a point to it? Does he actually throw it long enough to represent danger? Like, are we doing this because we think there's a benefit, or are we just following a trend?
Yeah, when you look at teams that are good at long throws, I look at Brentford in the Premier League, who have a fullback called Coyote, and he aims for a centre-back in Nathan Collins with every long throw, and the aim of a long throw is to get a flick on, right? That's probably what you try and get from a long throw. And when you're taking a long throw and you look at the Bristol City squad, who do you probably want in that squad to win the flick on of a long throw? It's probably
Dicky.
Rob Dickey, isn't it? So it's an interesting one. That's all I'll say on it, really.
Why do you think it is we're doing it, though, David? Because ultimately, most of his long throws they don't even make it to the line of the post. I don't think he gets it into that threatening position enough. Some of the times, actually, it leads to a counter against us. Is it something you want to see us persevere with?
Well, what's the term the technical people use? Is it we recycle the ball? I mean, we're crap. We're crap with lots of our dead ball situations. And if you listen to Talk Sport, which is so Premier League focused, it's all becoming a dead ball game, and we're not very good at stuff like that. Dicky should be the one who's in the box to do the flick, and he's not. I mean, do you remember Thomas Callas used to do the long throws as well, even with the help of a towel, which was brought in by who remembers Cambridge back in the 90s with John Beck, and they used to give the home team the towel to wipe the ball and not the away team. So, it's not very effective for us. And let's have Harry Cornick, because he can do a mean long throw, and with somebody like Cornick throwing the ball in, you got the chance to have your centre halves up there to get that flick on. So no, not great.
Even Zach Viner's taken long throws occasionally, but yeah, I mean, it seems absolutely crazy. If you haven't got Rob Atkinson there, I mean, who you got getting on the end of it? Like, is that, like Tom said, you've got to get that near post flick on, because it's very unlikely the ball's going to get into the middle of the 6-yard box from the flanks, and the best long throwers can take them from even further out. Ours just don't. All ours are going to be headed back to the edge of the area, unless you've got somebody who's going to volley the ball back like George Tanner did against Coventry last season, for a very rare goal. Then it's a complete and utter waste of time. Just play the ball short and try and cross the ball into the area.
Exactly. Now, moving on to the 84th minute, Portsmouth, for probably the only time in the game, successfully broke through our lines, one-on-one with Vitek, and a sharp Vitek save. Tom, what did you think of Vitek's overall performance yesterday? Because there was an aerial bombardment in the box. How did you feel how he dealt with it overall?
Yeah, he was good, wasn't he? And I think it's a confidence game, goalkeeping, isn't it? And I think the fact that he conceded, it was obviously off his arse in the end against Wrexham, but the goal he conceded from the corner, there was a real danger. I think that could have really shelled his confidence. I feel like if O'Leary conceded, I don't know, I'm whataboutering here, but if O'Leary conceded that goal against Wrexham, I think his confidence would have been down yesterday ahead of Portsmouth and would have struggled. But yeah, he's pretty mentally resilient, is Vitek. He's always going to make mistakes as a young goalkeeper, but I was impressed by how he bounced back from that against Wrexham, to be honest.
Anything to add, David?
No, look, it was a good save, and we were questioning him after the Wrexham game with an error, because it came 2 errors in the last 6 games, you could argue, with Vitek. But he's kept us in the game with so many saves, and some of them have been super saves rather than a goalkeeper just doing his job. I mean, again, Portsmouth on the day, they made a triple substitution on the 80th minute. I mean, to me, that's just leaving it too late for those players to have any impact on the game. But one player who came on for them that I've always thought will be a good addition to our team, we've never been able to afford him or whatever, and that's Jonathan Swift. He's 30 years old now. I think he played a lot of football for Reading, then he went to West Brom, and it was him that set up Bishop for the attempt, and Bishop got the better of Viner on that occasion. But player, I don't know. It was a good save, and Bishop, he's not amongst the goals, but is he the sort of player that if we put in a cheeky bid, would he add value to our side? Somebody like him, and somebody said here, why don't we sign Murphy if Mehmeti goes? If we're going to do anything, well, let's look at it this way: if Mehmeti went in Jan, would Murphy be the right sort of player to come in and replace him, or should we make?
This is going to be one of my questions later, so I'll do it right now. He's 30 years of age. He's got pace, got a good delivery into the box. He's got 18 months left on his contract. Does he fit the profile of what would make of Struber? Is he the type of player? Because to my mind, Struber doesn't necessarily need wingers. That's not what he necessarily looks for. You can talk about wing backs and the art of crossing, and Borges on the left brings a certain balance. But what do you think, Tom? Would Murphy fit a Struber profile team?
Oh, I'm in between really, because you think of the archetype of player that we probably need in January. It's someone with legs, which I think Murphy has. Someone who can play probably across the front line. Someone who can play on the left 10, right 10, and through the middle. He could probably play left or right, but not necessarily through the middle. And you want someone who can lead the press from the front as well, like Anderson, Twine. They do a lot of running, and I think Murphy probably ticks 3 of the 5 boxes that you'd want from a player in January. Maybe that's good enough. And what do you also count as a successful signing? I think someone who regularly plays in the team is probably a decent standard for a good signing, right? And he could be one of those players, I guess.
Mark, too old though? At 30? Is that the kind of signing we typically go for?
I think he doesn't represent the best value. And strangely, of course, a couple of seasons ago, he was starting for Oxford United in their playoff final win against Bolton, when Bolton were the clear favourites. So he left Oxford 2 summers ago to join Portsmouth. And I think, is it we think that Josh Murphy is a great player, or was it because he plays well against us, a little bit like a Barry Bannon, that we like him? But I just think he's the wrong age. He'd be a luxury player in a Struber team. Does he add as much defensively? He might go missing for large parts of the game when we need somebody to contribute, playing up and down the pitch. I just don't think he's for us.
No, I think the age thing, Mark, I'll agree with you there. While you were talking, I was just looking down at current League One scorers and the top League One scorers. Because would we get any value down there? And I've not heard of half of them. Well, I have. There's a few names on there, right? Connolly at Orient with 8. Keller Dunn at Barnsley, never heard of him. Talage at Plymouth. Burstow at Bolton. Ballard at Orient. Salech at Cardiff. Yeah, who are top, so they probably wouldn't sell him. Cozy at Dewberry at Bolton. Wootton at Stockport. Oh, Sam Bell, 6 goals. Are we gonna? Is he gonna be our? Well, we're not gonna. Will he get a contract on the basis of what he's doing down there? I don't know, but
I would suggest that he wouldn't, because ultimately you've dropped down a level for a reason, and I don't think he's dropped down with a view of go and get game time and come back a better player. I think the feeling is we've seen that, done it.
He's gone.
And we're looking to step up. We're not in that, or we're hoping for the best phase if we want to progress. Now, just moving it back to the game to finalise it. There's one other point I want to make. 93rd minute, you comes on for Twine, our second sub of the game.
Why? Why? What?
But my concern is
Twine. Well, Twine was absolutely knackered. But why wait that long?
This is my point.
It wasn't frivolous, but it was needed. But it should have been done earlier.
I have no complaints about running down the clock and that side of it, but it's a second game. It's a second game in 4 days. We're not necessarily under siege, but I think backs are pretty much against the wall. And yet, is it quite a damning indictment of those on the bench that there isn't enough trust to believe that you can bring them on to get you through the game? Tom, what's the reason for the lack of subs there yesterday?
I could probably turn the question on to you guys, actually. What, other than I think Twine for you made sense as a substitution, what other change would you have made in that game?
Well, ideally, I think you want a stronger central midfielder. You want perhaps to have more legs in central midfield, which is where the ball's coming through most of the time, to support Adam Randall. But I think who else was left on the bench?
We
There
haven't got
wasn't
anyone,
anybody.
Well,
We
you
haven't got
could have
anybody. That's the
pushed
problem.
you could have pushed Viner into the middle and then played Pringer's left centre back for 10 minutes. But why fix it if it's not broke? Because Viner's having a great game. Viner's best position is where he was, arguably on the other side of the field. But you keep your best units there. So, yeah, I'm inclined. Yeah, there was nobody to bring on, really, was there?
Okay, that kind of sums up the game. We've come out of it. For me, it was a very important win going into December. But before we look forward to what's coming up, I just have a question for the three of you, and I'll start with you, David. Who are the four alphas of this team? Who are the four key players that need to play well for us to perform, in your opinion?
Are you talking about yesterday's starting 11?
Yeah. Well, as a squad that's currently fit, so essentially,
as a fit squad. Well, that's pretty much everybody who started yesterday. So
but yeah, exactly. Yesterday's team, the four that are the ones that need to play well, that can kind of carry everyone else along, and if they play well, we play well.
Well, Mehmeti, Sykes.
You put Sykes in that bracket?
No, sorry.
You put Sykes as one of the alphas? I would say Mehmeti, absolutely, but Sykes is more
Randall and Mehmeti, Dickey and Viner. There you go. Okay. If you're going to ask for four.
Tom?
I'd have said exactly the same.
Okay, Mark?
Vitek, Viner, Twine, Mehmeti. The goalkeeper needs to be playing well. But I think we got to enjoy Radet Vitek while he's here. He's a far better goalkeeper than Max O'Leary, dominant in the air. He's a big unit. He's going to make. I mean, there's still a bit, a few comments about his positional sense, but he's still learning. But he's a dominant player, and he's the best keeper we've had in years there. And he's not even our player, and he's got 7 clean sheets this season, which is excellent up to now. And that's why we're in 6th place. So that's why I go for those 4 players, the spine of the team.
Okay, so within that spine, who is more important, Tom, Viner or Randall? Who is the real key cog within that?
To be honest, with how he's played this season, I think it's Zach Viner. I think the level of performance that we've put in this season has coincided with where he's played on the pitch. I just think when he's in defence and able to play the ball out as he does, he's probably, we could say Mehmeti's our talisman from the attack, but I think our actual best player this season from an outfield perspective has probably been Zach Viner, to be fair.
Okay, interesting point. Now, time to look forward into December. We're currently in the playoffs, give or take a few games in hand. I am net
and
positive.
The other thing we've done, Dave, is we've equalled last season's away wins.
We have?
Yeah, we only won 4 away games last season. We've done that already.
I feel very confident watching us on the road, to be honest. I feel like we're going to be in every game. It's the home games and the evolution of Struber and trying to figure out, I think he needs to figure out with the side just how you approach teams that maybe sit in a bit more away from home. But at the same time, he has shown that it can be done. But it is a work in progress of just what tactical differences he makes there, I think. Now, looking forward into December, we have Millwall, Leicester, Coventry, Middlesbrough, West Brom, and then Millwall again. From those games, 4 of them are teams currently above us. Just giving you all a bit of time to think about this, but I'll start with you first, David. How many points do you expect to take out of December? What for you is the target here?
Well, by the time we get to Millwall on the 29th, I called it a batch of 5 games up to Boxing Day, but let's take it up to the 29th, which is 6. It's the halfway point of the season. Yeah, we're sat there on 29 points at the moment. If we say you need 74 to pretty be assured of getting in the playoffs, yeah. Then at the halfway stage of the season, half of 74 is 37. Therefore, those 6 games have got to produce 8 points. So that is the minimum. That is the minimum requirement, 8 points.
Mark, looking at those fixtures, would you be 6 from the 6 games? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Millwall, Leicester, Coventry, and then who have we got?
Borough at home.
West Brom, and then Millwall again. So from the 6 games, David's saying 8 points. How do you feel about that? 8 points. Is that enough? Is that sufficient?
It's not necessarily sufficient, but I think it's quite a good estimate against possibly better teams in this division. It's our problems with our home form at the moment. Remember, last season we won 10 of our last 13 games. We only won 3 of our first 10 games. So the only reason we got in the playoffs last season, we completely switched the home form on its head from December onwards. And to get a run like that going again, we need to win. I think 9 of our last 13. I think it is, isn't it? We played 10 home games so far this season, or 9.
9.
We need to win 9 of our last 14 home games. So I think we need to win more away games. But yeah, I think 8 points. Yeah, I think that's a good estimate.
Okay,
Right,
so
hopefully
Tom, looking into your mystic crystal ball, January the 1st, played 24 games, 39 points, having picked up 10 points in this batch. How would you feel?
Yeah, you'd feel pretty happy, I think. And the thing that the most important person in how they feel is probably Steve Lansdowne at that stage, right? Because I think these fixtures are key, because I think it decides the strategy that we implement in January in terms of who we sign. And I think I said it the last time I came on this podcast as well. The start of this season has probably been just the feeling around the club, and the potential we have to get playoffs has probably been the best since 2008. And I think Steve Lansdowne, criticize him all you like, I firmly believe he wants this club to get promoted. I think if we get through this run of games with that number of points, there's a belief, really, isn't there, that it's truly possible we can do the playoffs again, and hopefully that will mean they can spend some money in January. And well, we might not need to if we get some Semenyo money, right? We might be able to spend some of that, but I think it's crucial to define our strategy in January. I really do.
Okay, so we're going to look forward to the next game, the Millwall game. David, I'll start with you first. What's the starting 11 for that game, or what are you looking for within a context of at least a basis of the team?
Well, I mean, look at the starting 11. Let's compare it with what started yesterday. I mean, Vitek will be in goal. Tanner, Dickey, and Viner across the back. Randall, they'll play Knight, I would think, in the middle. Reece and Mehmeti will probably start, and then it's how the rest of the team, whether Sykes is in there, McCrory, Borjas, and Twine. What else is there? I mean, if Knight's available, he comes in. Pring, you're just going to give him minutes off the bench. Yeah, you're not going to start Pring. So he could even start with the side that he started with yesterday, I think, really.
Tom, do you think you can be slightly hard done by after playing one of the better players against Wrexham? It's kind of just being forgotten about almost. Like, yeah, you're playing now back on the bench. Is there an element of being a tad unfair, or just there's no room for sentiment in football?
I think there's probably a little bit of both, to be honest. Although I would say, I mean, he wasn't bad yesterday, but I don't think Twine really lit the world up yesterday. So I don't know. I think you will be quite happy to see that Twine didn't do too well yesterday. I mean, it's just, I think the important thing is that Twine has now got competition for that spot is the main thing, to be honest. But yeah, as sentiments go, there's no room for it. But I do think he probably deserves more minutes based on how he's been, to be honest.
And Mark, a little tester for you. Let's see if you get it right or not. Will Knight be in the squad for Millwall?
Let's hope so. We need him in the centre. So, assuming he's fit, please, Mr. Football God, let him be fit. Knight for Sykes in centre midfield, then Sykes from McCrory at right wing back.
Yeah, good call,
Mark. Rest of the team, it's exactly the same.
Good call.
Sure. Now, before we wrap this up, is there any additional points people would like to make? Is there anything I've missed?
I just hope the Portsmouth fans got over his little bit of aberration yesterday and is less excitable this morning. And he looks back on his V sign and thinks, but maybe I shouldn't have done that. Let's be a bit nicer. Do I need to?
I'll tell you the little wormhole I went down yesterday, Dave, and I said this to you beforehand. Yeah. And the second half was a little bit boring. So I was looking at the other games going on. Barnsley were away at Blackpool. And I thought, who was that centre half that we had a few years ago that we had big tips for, who went to Barnsley and whose name, Mark, help me out here because I checked his name. What's his name?
Robbie
Cundy.
Cundy.
No relation. Where are you? Yeah, no, Robbie Cundy. And he was so I looked up, it's very good, this internet, Lark, isn't it? You can look up players that have played for Barnsley and Bristol City. Yeah. And surprisingly, I didn't see Darren Barnard on that list, but then Cundy was there, who's now at Cheltenham. Yeah. So Cundy was there. But also on that list was Josh Brownhill, who we signed, I think, from Preston, but he was at Barnsley for some of his period. And then I got onto a little thread on there that said about, and it was called Josh Brownhill's ears. And there was a load of pictures of Josh Brownhill, and he certainly had a pair of ears that were like wingnuts sort of thing, but he's had his ears pinned back. Now, the amount of money that he's getting out in Saudi Arabia now, what an addition he would have been to our squad this season. You imagine Knight, Brownhill, and Randall in our midfield. But anyway, he's had his ears pinned back, and it does suit him, I have to say, with his ears pinned back. So that all happened yesterday afternoon between Viner kicking off the line and probably Vitek doing that save, because my mind was wandering.
All I can say is that if anybody has Josh Brownhill's ears on the FBC bingo card, bravo, well played, because it was an unbelievable. Over to you, David, to close it out.
All right. Well, look, great hosting, Dave, as always. I'm sure you do some of those. Mark wants a word, as he normally does. Mark?
Yeah, just one last thing. I'll be posting on OTIP. Last chance in November to support my Movember campaign. I'll be adding a link. If anybody can make any donations, they'd be gratefully appreciated. David, many thanks for your donation the other day. That was absolutely brilliant. And so far, we've raised £380. So any other donations will absolutely be welcome. My dad's living with prostate cancer at the moment, so we're hoping to the fight against prostate cancer even more, especially where it's been in the news in the last few days. If anybody's been watching about the government looking at compulsory testing and what's the best way of a national screening program for men.
Yeah, Tom.
All I was going to say is just around the this is why we do it, football, the run of games that we've got coming up. You know, I'd have bitten your hand off if you told us we'd be here at the start of the season when Manning left, right? So I think it's time to try and be as positive as you can and excited for the run of games.
I mean, they are really, really exciting run of games coming up. And, 8 points, that's 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Look, we've got to take defeats on the chin. It's going to happen. Even Stoke yesterday, I think I read that they've lost 3 of their last 4. Yet they still held the position that they're in at the moment, And who was it won up there yesterday? Was it Hull? I think.
Hull. And they came back 1-0 down. And sometimes
look at Derby. Derby were 2-0 up yesterday, and they threw it away. Swansea were 2-0 up. They threw it away.
They were 1-0 up, but the thing with Derby was quite interesting, David, is they looked like they could have lost Carlton Morris for the rest of the season. He got injured in midweek. And they're worried that they could lose him for the season. Remember, folks, if you're ever worried about, we moan a lot about Bristol City, but there's our long forgotten neighbours, not Bristol Manor Farm, the other team that play across Bristol. I've lost 8 consecutive games. Could that be a job for Liam Manning if that became available in the next few weeks?
Job for Lee Johnson, maybe, or something like that. Just to finish on the prostate cancer thing, Mark, and that link by the person who donated, he meant Dave T, not me, so I need to look up that link. I haven't done it.
Oh, I'm supposed to apologise.
I had, sorry. Most of you know this, I had prostate cancer back in 2014, so 11 years ago. And I have to say this week, when the government sort of said that they're not going to bring in not compulsory, but the screening system isn't going to happen, I thought that was just utterly ridiculous. But all of you that are listening, particularly if you're over 50, just check your PSA. It can give false positives. It can also give false negatives. But if you have it done every other year, and there's a trend, I mean, when I had my PSA done, it was 11, came as a shock, totally out of the blue. It was 11.5. The range is 0 to 3.5. You could have readings. This is becoming like a public information film. But with PSA, you could have readings over a 6-year period that go 2.9, 2.3, 2.9, right? And you could keep having them done like that, yeah? But if over 3 readings, it was going 2.4, 2.9, 3.2. That's when you get it checked out. Cycling, if you're a cyclist and you're listening to this as well, don't have a PSA test after you've done 30K on cycling over the weekend, because what it does to us chaps down there, bizarrely, that can raise your PSA as well. So if you go cycling, don't have a medical the next day with a PSA, because that is when you get a false positive. All right. But on that note, Dave, thanks for being a great host. Tom, thanks for coming in as always. And you too, Mark. And everybody, will be back with a review of Millwall at home next Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. In the meantime, everybody, enjoy the week and enjoy the sunshine today.